So we're going up Moxy Bald here, and Moxy is one of the last significant mountains before we get to Monson, which is the last town before the 100 Mile Wilderness and essentially the end. Because after the 100 Mile Wilderness, there's only A Ball Bridge Camp Store to do a little resupply, and that's it. And then it's Mount Katahdin, Baxter State Park. So we're really coming close to the end, and this Moxie Bald was actually an enjoyable hike up. You can see from the rock face that it was pretty smooth and easy, and I mean we were winded. Don't get me wrong, but it was a beautiful day, and we really enjoyed the hike. It was such a beautiful day, and Moxie Bald was so nice that we ended up staying up here maybe for an hour or so and just chatting. We were picking blueberries for a while. There were a lot of blueberries and sitting and reflecting. It was interesting because Maine is the last state, so you feel like you're at the end, but it's actually the second longest state on the entire Appalachian Trail, second only to Virginia. It's 281 miles. So there's still so much to get through. It's almost anticlimactic. You feel like you're at the end when you cross over to Maine, and then you have some significant climbs and 280 miles to go. Another thing that Maine is known for is its rivers that you have to ford, and we were really lucky. This was one of the very few rivers that we had to ford the entire trail. Most of them were like this that you can see Soup Crossing right now. They were so low because there was so little snow and rainfall this year that you could actually just hop across. When we got to Monson, we decided to stay at Shaw's, and which was really wonderful. Shaw's has been welcoming hikers for decades, and it's been around. It's one of the famous hostels on the AT, and with good reason. It's really well established, well run, and it has a little store here where you can do all your resupply. There's also private rooms. You have single rooms, double rooms, triple rooms, and Sherpa Crow and I shared a room, a double room, which was nice, and it wasn't that expensive. I think maybe $30 each, something like that. But what's really nice is that they have this amazing breakfast in the morning too, where it's like all you can eat pancakes and bacon, and nothing better than that for hikers. And Poet and Hippie Chick, who run the place and own it, are just so welcoming and wonderful. They're through hikers themselves, and so they know what we need, and they really took good care of us. So when Poet dropped us back off at the trail, it wasn't very long before we got to the famous sign for the 100 Mile Wilderness, which starts a section that for 100 miles, essentially, you can't get off. You're stuck. There's some private roads that I guess they can get emergency vehicles on and things like that. But for the most part, it's pretty isolated, and there's certainly no resupply or hostels or towns to stop in. So for the next 100 miles, we're on our own. So we had lunch at Little Wilson Falls, which is a beautiful, beautiful waterfall, not too far into the 100 Mile Wilderness, and it's the perfect place to kind of sit and reflect and talk. And as we enter this last section of the trail, it's been amazing to reflect and look back on what we've accomplished. And the one thing that we all keep talking about is how, on the one hand, we don't want it to end, but on the other hand, it's time. It feels like it's time to end. So we go back and forth between wanting it to slow down and wanting it to just be over. And I'm not certain where I am. I don't think I've accomplished everything I intended to before I started the hike. I had all these grand visions of planning the next 25 years of my life and things like that. And I've had a different experience, and one that I wouldn't change for anything. But I still have a lot of thinking to do. This is a view from an area called the Ledges, which we ended up one evening as it was getting dark, and so we decided to stealth camp around here. We couldn't all camp together because there wasn't a space for it, so some of us cowboy camped on the ledges. Some of us, like myself, I found a tent spot back a little bit. It was just a beautiful, beautiful night. We're down to having maybe 4 or 5 days before we summit Mount Katahdin, and the excitement is palpable, but we're also really nervous too. When we get to a top of a mountain, we get cell reception, and we've been checking the weather. And what's worrying is that there's, I think, an 85% chance of thunder showers on the day we want to summit. So I am speeding it up. I'm trying to get there the day before. We were supposed to arrive on a Friday. I'm trying to get there on Thursday because there's no chance of thunder showers or rain that day. I don't want to summit Mount Katahdin in the rain, so I'm pushing. And so far, everybody's decided to do that with me and push forward, and we're doing 25-mile days. But I know at some point they may decide to pull back because they're not in a rush like I am. Most of them have a lot more time and don't need to push it. So we'll see. I've never seen anything like this bug before. Its wings look like they're made out of stained glass. It's beautiful. So I thought I had seen the last of the big rain on this trip, and but I was wrong. It came back for an encore on my very last mountain. This is Whitecap Mountain, and the rain came last night about midnight and rained all night and all morning. It slowed down a little. It's just a mist right now, but I'm drenched and I'm miserable, and the rocks are slippery, and all around me it's wet and disgusting. And this is where you're really tried as a through hiker. You're just it's miserable. And you all know how I feel about rain, and my mantra for it is just keep walking. That's all I say to myself over and over again. I must have said it 10,000 times this day. Just keep walking. Just keep walking. Just keep walking.